Big boy on the rails. Hello everybody and welcome back to Old, Frail, and Decrepit. Today's edition we're going to look at the lowly flatbed. Isn't that cool? I mean, well, okay, maybe it's not cool. It's got rolling wheels, it's got couplers, and that's about it. So what we're going to look at today is what I've done when I've gotten hold of empty flatbed trailers. We're going to look and see what I've done, how I've attached things. Of course, we're going to run them around the track too. Just so you can see all the possibilities, leastways the possibilities that I've looked at in using these empty flatbeds. Look at these custom loads for an army train. These are some die-cast toys. Not sure if they're dinky toys or what they are. But the car that is used is the same one as you find on the auto carrier that Mark's had with the metal clips. And what I've done is I've clipped the front axle under the clip on the car. And that's just enough to hold it into place, other than in a big derailment. The same thing has been done here with these plastic tanks. This one and these two. I've just hooked them into the clips that are existing on the car. And that just goes right, the clip goes right over the axle itself. This particular car used to be a log dumping car, but the mechanism was messed up and it basically was just a worthless flatbed. So there was no clip on this one. So what I did was I took a piece of foam down the middle to keep it stable side to side, and then these two cross pieces, as you can see, they're just a little bit wider than the center one, and that keeps it stable front to back. It also makes the load removable. Now this particular tank is a snap fit kit from Revell from 1975. Let's see if I can get that to focus in. Yeah, there we go. And it was a snap fit. Now I did have to do a little bit to that particular tank because it was missing the barrel, and the two sets of tracks kept falling off because it was missing a pin. So those have been glued there, and I made this from a Lego piece. But what's kind of cool on this, watch this. It's got some sort of cam in there that as it goes around, the barrel lifts and drops. That's pretty cool for a plastic kit. And of course you recognize this. This is an old wind-up tank that Mark's had. What I've done is I've taken a tender chassis, and if you look right here, I've hooked a cloth-covered hairband up over the wheels on both sides, and then down here under this clip. Did that front and back. Now I didn't have to do anything to this, I just thought that looked good with that. This is a Marx flat car that probably had tractors on it to begin with, but they were the old plastic molded with the little driver. These are a couple of Erdl tractors that I've clipped under, putting the little clips over the rear axle on both of these. Now this is one that didn't have clips. Back it up here. There you go. This one didn't have clips, so what you see I've done is I've took little pieces of styrofoam, not styrofoam, but the expanded foam packing material, cut strips and just glued them in place. Did that on both sides here. And that's enough to hold the cars in place. Of course, unless we derail, and then it all gets really spectacular. This was an early attempt at putting a load together. In fact, these next two, because this one here is the same thing, what I've done is I took the hair bands and made little metal clips to fit into the holes here, and then up and over, and then it's clipped on the other side the same way. Did that with here and here. Now, this was, a lot more work than I'm usually willing to do to actually do something, but it does hold them in place, and they are removable. The cars aren't glued or anything. Okay, now this one was just a little weird, because this, of course, is a Wright Flyer. And this has the clips, and I've actually glued it to the, glue dots, glued it to the car. Because this is, even though it's die cast, it does have a lot of small pieces, so wouldn't want that to be played with anyway, because it'll have a tendency just to break. But it does look pretty cool on the flatbed. This is the most recent one that I've done. It's a CB&Q car, and originally had clips on it. Well, when I got it, the clips were gone. So it also had the auto carrier framework attached to it, which I traded that to my son for something or another. So it left me with this long flatbed. So while it had the auto carrier on it, I put these brass rails just to keep the cars from rolling off the end. Well, then after I traded away the superstructure off of it, I decided I needed to do something with it. And then I was at a garage sale and ran into this really good looking, I think it's a dinky toy. And it's a tanker semi. Really nice shape for its age. It's missing the mobile sticker on the other side. So that's why I've got this side showing. Otherwise it really looks kind of shabby. But to attach it, because it didn't have the clips, it didn't have really any way to just hold it in place, I drilled a couple of holes through the bed, and up here at this axle and back on the back side over here, I drilled holes and put zip ties through. Again, it's removable, though it takes a little more work than some you can just lift off, but it does hold it in place. And this one would probably hold in place even in a nice derailment. These here are not Mark's trailers. I picked these up at a garage sale that I showed in a previous video. They're very good looking trailers, but this car, it says CB&Q, still had the clip. So I just clipped that over the rear axle. This one wasn't in as good a shape, the trailer, and it did have the clip on the flatbed. So I hooked that over the rear axle. Now, I don't have a roof for that, so this must be one of those trailers they use to go pick up cow carcasses or something. Now, I looked at this at an antique store, passed it up a couple times before I finally ended up buying it. Now, as you can see, it's a little too big for the other stuff on it, but like we say here at Old, Frail, and Decrepit, who pays attention to scale? So, again, this is one of my earlier efforts, so I just ran some thin wire up through and down through here, back up here, and this does hold everything in place. Now, if you notice, this didn't start life as a flatbed. This was a work caboose. I remember, right? Yeah. But it does work very nicely for this. And even though that trailer's a little big, still makes for a nice load. Especially next to this one. Don't even know what brand this is. All plastic except for the axles. And this one, I just used twist ties. I forget what I even bought that had these long twist ties. I just threaded those down through and tied them off. That's a nice light load for that one. This one's a little different. Had an extra 6-inch frame with no couplers on it. So I took the trucks with the tilt couplers off of a donor car, just ran a screw down through there. In fact, you can probably see that. Yeah, there's the screw head right there. Nut and bolt down through there. And then put pieces of that black foam packing material to keep everything from rolling around and rattling against each other. Now, the reason I have these two is when I was a kid, I built models of these two. And then when I ran into these a couple of years ago, I thought, oh, well, I've got to have those. What we have here is some more Ertl die-cast toys. Now these are construction pieces, and as you can see, these are again the tractor clip type clips on this car, and I've got those over the front wheels or front axles. And then of course I had to put a rubber band to hold the digger arm for the back because it kept swinging around and flipping out. So again, another load you could put on one of these cars. Now the one thing about these die-cast toys like this, they are a little heavier. So it is going to be a little more strain on your locomotive. This one I'm just not real happy with. This was another one that had the tractor type clips. Well, I just didn't have a happy way to do it. I've got it over the front axle here and up underneath here. So it just makes for kind of a weird looking set there. But at least it holds it in place. And here's one that has the regular car clips, and this one I put over the axle back here. But that one actually turned out really nice. And you can see that again is the car carrier type flatbed.